In a recent press conference, Denver Broncos head coach Sean Payton was asked about tight end Albert Okwuegbunam. The fourth-year man out of Missouri is looking to get into the good graces of this current coaching staff after last year finding his way into Nathaniel Hackett's doghouse. Explosive plays last year for the Broncos were few and far between, and you've got to wonder if having an explosive playmaking threat like Albert Okwuegbunam on the field would have changed that at all last year. Alberto had a strong camp last year, but it felt like he was phased out of the offensive game plan after like week 4 because he couldn't block. In Nathaniel Hackett's offense, when they were running a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets, you needed your tight ends to be able to contribute as a blocker, and that's just not who Alberto Okwuegbunam is. Alberto is a speedy guy for a tight end. He's got a really nice explosive playability, but he's not somebody who's going to be a consistent contributor in the blocking game. He's just not. And it felt like since he didn't contribute that, Nathaniel Hackett wanted nothing to do with him in his offense. So for most of the weeks last year, Albert Okwuegbunam was inactive. He had a total of just 18 targets last year. 7 of them came in the final 2 games after Jerry Rossberg took over as head coach. This was really disappointing because in 2021, Alberto showed some really nice flashes. As a rookie, he only played in 4 games before tearing his ACL, but in 2021, catching passes from mostly Teddy Bridgewater, he appeared in 14 games and hauled in 33 catches for 330 yards, 10 yards per reception, and had 2 receiving touchdowns. After Noah Fant got traded away to Seattle in the Russell Wilson deal, it really felt like Alberto was going to be our starting tight end entering training camp last year, even after the team had drafted Greg Dulcich. Alberto made some nice plays in training camp, but again, because he wasn't a contributor as a blocker, Nathaniel Hackett pretty much had no use for him in his offense. I really feel like Sean Payton's going to be able to take a look at a guy like Alberto and realize, okay, sure, he's an explosive playmaking threat, but he's not really a guy who blocks. So instead of using him as a traditional Y tight end, why don't we put him in the slot as basically a big slot receiver or line him out one-on-one on the boundary? You could basically use Albert Okwuegbunam as almost a big wide receiver as opposed to a traditional tight end. And I really feel like that's a role that would fit him a lot better in this Sean Payton offense as opposed to what Nathaniel Hackett was trying to do with him last year. Alberto could use that combination of size and speed, and he could really be a big mismatch nightmare for the Denver Broncos, especially if we were to line him up on a nickel or somebody smaller like that. I feel like Alberto could absolutely embarrass them. When asked how Alberto is progressing this year in the Broncos offense, Payton said that he really likes his athleticism, but Alberto needs to hone in on more consistency in his craft before he can be a consistent contributor on this team. He can run, he's athletic. I think consistency is where he needs to improve the most, Payton said. He's made progress, but he's at that stage where this is the time. So what Payton is essentially saying there is it's time for Albert Okwuegbunam to put up or shut up. You could definitely make the excuse, and I feel like it was a valid one, that Alberto did not get a proper shot to show what he could do last year. This year, he is going to get a fair shake at things. The Broncos tight end room is currently consisting of Greg Dulcich as our tight end 1. Then we signed Chris Manhertz in free agency. He's primarily going to be our blocking tight end. Then we traded for Adam Troutman from the New Orleans Saints, who obviously has familiarity in this offense, and he's somebody who's going to fill that tight end 2 role, maybe that F tight end role, but I ultimately feel like Albert Okwuegbunam is going to be used more as a bigger wide receiver than as a traditional tight end, because I just feel like that's the role that suits him a lot better. Sure, they'll probably line Alberto up at the traditional Y tight end position every now and again, but it probably won't be super duper often. So ultimately, just like Sean Payton said, this year is put up or shut up time for Albert Okwuegbunam. He's entering a contract year, and if he cannot get things together here in Denver this season, then I don't know what his outlook for his NFL career is going to be moving forward. Last season, there was a lot of hope for Albert Okwuegbunam entering the year, so here's hoping that now that he's no longer under the shadows of Nathaniel Hackett, that he'll actually be given a real opportunity to succeed in the NFL. So I'm curious, Broncos country, what is your outlook for Albert Okwuegbunam this season in terms of receptions, yards, and touchdowns? Drop those comments down below below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are 2 free and easy ways to show your support. It helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push this out to fellow members of Broncos country just like you and me. And until next time, guys, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.